What's up, everybody? Chicago Goonie here, bringing another Arsenal talk. Well, 4-3 loss to Liverpool at the Emirates. 3 out of the last 4 years, losing the opening game. I mean, it's been, I guess, like in the last 10 years since we've been at the Emirates. We've only won, I believe, 2 games in the opening day, which is a shocking stat. Today was the 10th anniversary of our 10th season at the Emirates. Embarrassing, it really was. I mean, it was basically like a tale of two halves. Um, First off, let's just go over some of the statistics. Thought in the starting lineup, the starting lineup to me was wrong. Um, why Santi was not starting at the 10 is definitely beyond me. I don't understand it. People were talking that it was because of fitness. Then why was Aaron Ramsey playing at the 10? Why was Alexis Sanchez playing as a lead striker if Santi couldn't play because of fitness? Even if Santi can give the team say 60 minutes, that's 60 minutes of an actual number 10. And if anybody wants to come at me and try to convince me that Aaron Ramsey is a number 10, please do, because you would be acting like a complete fool because he just can't do it. The the style of his game, the way he is as a player, he's not cut out for a number 10. That's why he's a central midfielder. He cannot play the 10. He doesn't have the attributes to play as a number 10. And today you saw it. Even in the Man City game, you saw it. But yet, for some reason, he gets to start at number 10. And again, he was unfit, and I'll get to that a little bit later. But why Santi wasn't playing at the number 10 is beyond me. Of course, like I said, the two kids were going to be starting at center half. And you're going to have El Nani. I thought it was going to be Xhaka and Coquelin, but it was Coquelin and El Nani as the two central midfielders to try to protect them. Of course, the fullbacks were correct. Wobie got to start ahead of Oxlade-Chamberlain, and of course, Theo Walcott got to start as well. And I mean, the first half was fine and everything like that, but let's get into some. Let's just get this out of the way. We had 51% possession to their 49%. We had 5 shots on target to 9 shots all day. Again, getting outshot. This is one of the problems at Arsenal Football Club is we just do not take enough shots. We don't challenge the goalkeeper of the opposing team whatsoever. Liverpool had 16 shots and they had seven on target. That's kind of crazy if you think about a visiting side having 16 shots on target when you're playing against another big club like Arsenal. It shouldn't happen. That many shots being taken, and then of course having more shots on target than us. And then let's see, we had something like I can't find the final stat of it, but even at halftime we only had 80% passing accuracy, and that's terrible. That's really terrible. As a team, you want to stay in the between like the 85 and 88 range. In having 80% possession or 80% passing accuracy is just terrible. Especially when you're looking at a football club like Arsenal, who prides themselves on possession football and passing accuracy, and we just didn't have it today. That was one of our downfalls. We had 21 tackles. They had 23. I mean, they beat us in almost every major category, and this is the one that really, Jesus, this one it will blow your mind. We only had 10 clearances all day. They had 25 clearances all day, but yet we only had 9 shots total on the day, but they had 25 clearances. That's a organized defensive setup. From the back four to the central midfield. That's just organization right there to be able to have that many clearances and being in the right place at the right time. That's just good managing, good coaching. You know, good awareness on Liverpool's part, but that's crazy having 25 clearances. We had 5 corners to their 4. We had 4 offsides to their 3. Those were basically like the match stats that I can really find. I couldn't really find the passing accuracy, but guarantee you it was under 85%. If we had 80% accuracy at halftime, it didn't really get that much better going into the second half of the game. But getting into the game, the first half wasn't too bad. People, I see on Twitter. I haven't watched any type of like Arsenal fan TV, or if there was any type of live broadcasts of any type of podcast or anything like that yet. Basically, I just went to bed after the game. I was all excited. Got up around 7 o'clock in the morning. Made myself some breakfast. Watched some of the Man United game. Looking for that starting lineup and everything, and getting pumped up. By the end of the game, I was just kind of like gassed and didn't want to do an Arsenal talk because I would just pissed off. Right now I'm a little bit calmer, but at the time I was just really pissed off. It got to the point when they scored their third goal. I just put my TV on mute because I just didn't want to hear it. I just didn't want to hear the fans, booing and chanting, and I turned turned the volume back on right they right before they scored that fourth goal, and God, you know, Graham Lasso on NBC basically said, "Oh, I can't believe this. It's only in the 60th minute, and Arsenal fans are already leaving. They're getting up off their seats and they're already leaving." And then of course I just put it back on mute. I was like, I don't want to hear another fucking thing throughout the rest of the game because I knew it was just gonna get worse and worse. Um, Try to put it back on after our third goal because I thought maybe we can nick that fourth goal, but it just wasn't in the cards for us at all. But um, I see on Twitter that a lot of people think that we weren't prepared and everything like that. It wasn't a fact of preparation. Um, it was a fact of not having the right players on the pitch that we should have. Um, Maybe you could say that was more of a preparation thing because we looked good in the first half. I think we could have been better. Obviously, if we had Santi at the 10, our passing would have been a little bit more crisper. We would have maintained possession a little bit more. Um, you know, if you're going to put a player like Alexis Sanchez at the striker, he definitely needs a comparable number 10 at that position to feed him the ball. Um, because while Theo Walcott is a good crosser of the ball, he's not a great passer of the ball. Iwobi is okay, but again, he's just a kid coming into his own, and you can't really expect that great weighted pass by by him just yet. He's maybe a year or two away from really uh, for his skills to just come in, to be complete. I guess you could say. But having Ramsey at the 10 was just, I mean, it just didn't look right. He doesn't have that. He really doesn't have that final ball. He really doesn't have that ability to pick out a pass. If you look at when Alexis Sanchez played at the striker position for Chile over the years, now they have him at the wing mostly, and he thrives there. I mean, the team is even better now with him as a winger and Vargas as a striker. But when Alexis Sanchez was the striker, Arturo Vidal played behind him. Now Arturo Vidal is just world class. I mean, he's one of the best midfielders in the world. And even at that time too, you know, 2 3 years ago when Alexis Sanchez was the main striker for Chile, he was playing right behind him, and Arturo Vidal is just, his passing is awesome. I mean, it is really, he's the complete box to box kind of midfielder. But when he plays for Chile, he plays more behind the striker. And when you put a player that's equal to Alexis Sanchez behind him, good things are going to happen. He's going to be able to get that pass in, that perfectly weighted ball in, because he can catch his runs in stride. I think most of the offsides today was Alexis Sanchez. And again, you're looking at Alexis Sanchez, who is identifying his position, identifying a possible run for himself to get out in front of a ball or two, and his teammates just couldn't do it. Ramsey couldn't do it. Conklin couldn't do it. Um, Elneny was. I was trying to figure out. I was like, okay, what is Elneny? Is he the central midfielder or is he holding midfielder? Because at times during the first half, it seemed like he was almost like the extra third center half, if you will, during that game. And it was just I couldn't really hone in. It just seemed like he was just told stay in between Holding and Chambers and just stay there for the entire game. And that's what he basically did in the first half. Now, I mean, the first half wasn't too bad. We were dangerous. We we had several chances. Obviously Theo Walcott got a PK. It's almost like we have PK taking by committee. If you get the PK, then you get to take the PK. Of course, there was no one really else on the pitch that could really take it other than maybe Alexis Sanchez. Um, but Theo, maybe because he was the most senior player on the pitch, he just said, you know what, I'm taking it. I got the PK. I'm going to take it. um, you know, it wasn't a matter of power. He had enough power into his kick, but it just wasn't placed right. He should have been, he should always try to aim for the upper left-hand corner. I don't know what these penalty takers are thinking, because that's one of the most difficult saves that you could try to make as a goalkeeper, is going up into your right to try to save any type of goal, whether you're left-handed, or you're a left-footed kicker or a right-footed kicker. You should always be aiming for the top left or right corners, because they're almost impossible to save. And Theo just, it was, in between the far post and Mignolet. I mean, it was almost a comfortable save for Mignolet. He just had to guess right, and he did. Um, but of course, like something like 50, or it was like something like 50 to 62 seconds later, Arsenal comes down, and Theo Walcott waving up his hands. Nice finish by Theo. He definitely needed that. After that PK, you're just like, oh my God, this guy is cursed. This guy has been cursed for the last like 6 to 8 months, and the trend is continuing. But took the ball, took a nice touch, and just slammed it into the far post, and perfectly placed, perfect amount of pace on the ball. It almost reminds me of I think it was like 2012. He had basically kind of almost like the same exact shot against Liverpool at the Emirates. It was a night game though, but kind of remember that being almost like the same exact kind of shot that Theo took. But you know, the more goals he scores, the more that he is put into the lineup, the more kind of activity that he gets is a positive if he's scoring. If he goes on a scoring drought and whatnot, and just an unlucky streak, he needs to be taken out immediately, because, obviously he goes on nothing but confidence. But for the rest of the game, the second half, Theo wasn't really as active as he was in the first half. It almost seems like, well, I scored a goal, so I don't need to try as hard. You're not going to get any type of defensive wonders from Theo. You're going to see him mostly just jogging back or walking back, and you would have thought this season he would just change his style completely, and just say, you know what, even if I run myself into the ground for 70 minutes, I'm going to do that for 70 minutes, and I'll get subbed out. Even if I do that, I'll just run myself into the ground and just go balls out and fight and fight and fight. And it's just kind of like the same Theo when it comes to defending. And even even in the second half, he just didn't look all that dangerous to me. When Moreno is just one of the worst left backs in England, but yet we're not attacking his side as much as possible. Even if you would have switched Iwobi and Theo, if you would have rotated their positions and put Iwobi on that right side, even for a few minutes or something, and just try to see if we can attack that side, because Moreno he's an awful defender. I mean, you're looking at that PK where he was just completely out of position. He was tracking back as fast as possible, and he made just a dumbass a challenge, and he got a yellow card for it, I believe. And I don't understand why we don't keep attacking him, because if you're on a yellow card, especially as a fullback, your options are very limited of what you can actually do. You can't go in and sliding tackles anymore. You can't uh, bump an attacker anymore. You should be attacking that side, especially as bad as Moreno actually is. But we just don't do it. We just didn't do it for the whole game, and of course that comes maybe down to the manager, sitting on his ass for most of the game, which Arsene Wenger did. Again, once, that was another thing going into the season. I was like, hopefully Arsene Wenger hears the cries from the fans or whomever, and just starts becoming a manager and starts getting on the touchline and directing traffic. Because if he was on the touchline directing traffic, he would start telling people, let's start attacking the right side because Moreno's on on a yellow card. He is the most vulnerable defender that Liverpool have, but we don't do it for whatever reason. And then going into the second half, I mean, Coutinho, oh my God, that free kick was an outstanding free kick. I mean, that was perfectly placed, perfect amount of pace. I mean, Czech had absolutely zero chance. That again, that's where you have to place it, even on free kicks. If you place it in that position, you know, David Beckham made a fucking career out of it. Other than passing, he made a career out of taking free kicks like that and just placing them in the upper right hand corner or upper left hand corner if you're looking straight at the goal rather than behind. I mean, that thing was a worldly, and it'll probably be one of the goals of the week, to be honest with you. But going into the second half, I mean, other than that goal, that was the only type of real downer of that first half, really. There's a couple instances where it got a little shaky here and there, but there was nothing that was really severe where you're just like, oh God, we're in trouble now. You never thought that going into the second half, but second half starts and Liverpool just comes out a completely different team, to where Arsenal came out as a completely different team. Arsenal was still in the dressing room by the time the first goal went in, which was in the 49th minute with Adam Lallana, and we were still in the dressing room. We weren't on a pitch. We were slow. We didn't look energized. We didn't look motivated. But Liverpool came out of the blocks running. They came out with pace. They came out with an intensity that they didn't show in the first half. So Jurgen Klopp went into that dressing room and just went in on them. Or at the same time, they were just like, okay, now's the time. Now's the time to really unleash. Because you could see the difference in fitness. Definitely, you could see the difference in fitness from our players to Liverpool players. I mean, they were steaming. I mean, they were just flying in that second half, leading up to their last goal in the 63rd minute. Let's see, Animal Lallana's, that was all on Monreal. That was falling asleep. There's two players on the far post. Two players, and Monreal, for whatever reason, is basically hugging on to Colm Chambers. He's within like a foot or two, maybe like a foot and a half from Colm Chambers for whatever fucking reason. Falls asleep, back post, Adam Lallana, just a free kick. Philip Coutinho's second goal in the 56th minute. They really started attacking Robert Holding in that second half, and I think that's what maybe Jurgen Klopp said during his little halftime speech, probably, that we weren't attacking Rob Holding enough because he's the one that least amount of experience, and I feel sorry for that kid. He should have never been put into this mess. He should have never been thrown into this type of situation, especially against Liverpool of all clubs. If you want to throw him in against maybe like a Watford or a a Hull City or in Burnley, any of those teams, that's probably fine. But not against a team like Liverpool who has real players. But Philip Coutinho with a second and the 56th minute, that was all on Holding, unfortunately. You know, nice cross into the box. Philip Coutinho, he was getting marked by Holding, but Holding just took his eye off him. And of course, Coutinho made one little move and went right off his shin into the back of the net. Uh, Mane, his third or for the fourth goal for Liverpool. I mean, what that was just an individual goal that you love to see from your winner. Pace, possession, being able to really just take the ball and be confident on the ball in your on ball skills and just take it home and that left-footed finish again you know I don't think there was one shot that Czech even had a chance against today that went in. I don't think there was any shot that he could have actually done better or even stopped. Those shots were just perfectly placed, every single one of them, from the free kick to Lana's goal to Coutinho's second goal and then Mane's for the fourth goal. That was just everything was perfectly placed. There were you just took the goalkeeper right out of the equation. Um, and that was basically it. I mean, it was just I was like, okay, maybe I'll just go to bed right now. Maybe I'll just go take a nap right now because I was just tired and Oxley Chamberlain gets set into the game. For Iwobi. Uh, Santi comes in for an injured Aaron Ramsey, who busts out his hamstring for the umpteenth time, and I'll get into that a little bit later. Oxley Chamberlain has a nice individual goal, cuts in between two Liverpool defenders, and it was kind of like the Sane or Mane goal, to where it was a nice individual goal, cuts in between two players and just slots it home. Took a little deflection off of Lovren, and it was just a nice goal. It was a nice individual goal by Oxlade Chamberlain. Um, the Our third and final goal was, of course, with set piece with Santi perfectly placed into the box. All the Chambers had to do was take a slightest touch and just let the ball keep going into the back of the net, and that's what he did. It was perfectly placed. You thought maybe there was a slight chance because that came in, I believe, in the 76th minute or so, 75th minute, and you thought maybe well, there's probably 15, 18 minutes left in the game. We still have a slight chance, but again, we just start running out of ideas. We couldn't really put anything together. Our passing was horrible. We didn't really have any type of direction or any type of kind of need. Players were trying too hard again. Of course, that's what happens especially after that second goal for Liverpool went in. That Adam Lallana, we just typical Arsenal. We panic instead of calming down, thinking about what we have to do. We go into panic mode and everybody tries too hard to try to get that goal back, rather than saying, okay, everybody start focusing again. Everybody calm down. Let's pass the ball around for a minute or two. Let's get some passes completed, and let's calm it down and start focusing on what we have to do. But of course we don't. We go into panic mode, and that's on the manager too for not communicating with his players to just settle down. Let's refocus. Let's start playing the game instead of still acting like we're in the dressing room, and let's put something together. Because there was a lot of time left still. I mean, it came in the 49th minute. It's not like the game was going to be over in 5 minutes, and that's one of the negatives of Arsenal Football Club, that we just go into panic mode when that lead goal gets scored by the opposition. Um, so that's obviously that hasn't changed. Um, let's see. Let's see. Talking about Aaron Ramsey's injury a little bit here. Um, all of his last injuries, going from the 13 and 14 season on, has been hamstring injuries. The last injury he's had was in the 13-14 season with his quad. when he ripped his quad. I believe it was against either Cardiff or Swansea, I think it was, if I remember correctly. Um, but yeah, the guy has a problem with his hamstrings, obviously. Throughout then, the 14-15 season, the 15 to 16 season, it has all been hamstring injuries for Aaron Ramsey. Now this is the one thing I was concerned with going into this game and seeing him as a starting number 10, and even last year or last week of him starting against Man City. Everybody else has had a preseason. Everybody else has had the chance to take in training sessions, take in games, except for Aaron Ramsey and Alexis Sanchez. They got thrown right in. Alexis Sanchez played 80 minutes last weekend. I think Aaron Ramsey played something around, what was it, like something like 70 minutes, something like that, against Man City. And then we start him again. Those guys aren't fit for one, and they're not match fit for two. But yet we're throwing him into the wolves while players like Koscielny, Giroud, and Ozil, for whatever reason, they get though a full preseason almost, if you will. Doesn't make any sense to me, especially with Aaron Ramsey of his injury woes over the last two seasons, of why you would want to start a player like that rather than just giving him another week of training, give him another week of endurance, get himself fit, get himself as match fit as possible in training. But yet he starts, and of course in the second half he goes down with grabbing his left leg, upper left leg, and it's a hamstring injury again for the umpteenth time with this guy. He cannot stay healthy. And that's what happens when you rush players back. That's what happens. That's exactly what happens. Injuries happen. He was rushed back. Thank God that Alexis Sanchez didn't get injured. He played the full fucking game today. His the, the last the I didn't get it. I didn't understand it. The last substitution was Chaka. Didn't understand it. What is he gonna do in a game like this when we're down 2 goals, 1 goal? I didn't understand that substitution. Why not bring on Akpom? It doesn't make sense because we need a goal. We don't need defending. We need a goal. Yeah, Chaka is a good passer of the ball and whatnot, but so is Santi and so is Elneny still. In Elneny, he was mostly playing as a holding player. He didn't really run himself into the ground, and the guy has a huge engine that he can last a full 90 minutes. And he had a full preseason on top of that. But for whatever reason, we bring in Chaka. Maybe it was because, Arsene Wenger was trying to calm down the fans who were already basically leaving, who were basically already booing, who was already starting the chance of spending the fucking money. I don't get it. I didn't get that substitution. I understood the Santi substitution. I understood the Oxlade-Chamberlain substitution. But the fact that you don't bring on Akpom as your third choice to change up the formation and put Akpom and Sanchez up top, or put Sanchez on the wing, or maybe even as a number 10, I just didn't understand it. It didn't make any sense to me to put Xhaka in that position. And it took him 20 minutes to get a yellow card too, by the way. A lot of his challenges were very late and very physical. But again, those injuries, we were just lucky that Alexis Sanchez didn't get injured. But people are trying to bag on him on Twitter. He's not match fit. He's not fit, period. But yet we're throwing him out there. That's why he's a striker currently, is because he's not match fit. It's easier for a striker or to put a player who's not fit or match fit into the side, because they don't have to do much other than when we're in the attacking possession. But a player like Alexis Sanchez, he's always going to run around and try to get the ball back. But yeah, we're playing him up there, and it shouldn't have never happened. Let's see. Looking at some of my notes here. I guess talking about the striker situation. I mean, this is kind of like insult to injury. Lacazette got a hat trick today. That's something to hang your head on. But going back into the defense of Holding and Chambers, they had a decent first half. The second half was a nightmare for both of them. Holding was, or Chambers was, um, he got basically twisted and turned by Mane on that fourth goal for Liverpool. Holding got abused, most of the second half. I mean, you could see Coutinho and Firmino and just about anybody and everybody was running at Robert Holding. And like I said, I feel sorry for the kid. He should never been put into this position. He should have been on the bench at most. He should have been with the reserve team. He should have been playing with the reserves. I think they had a game something like Friday or something like that. He should have been playing with them, not with us. I really feel sorry for him. That if any type of Arsenal fan tries to give that kid abuse, if you're gonna blame anybody for Robert Holding's uh, uh, performance, blame Arsene Wenger because he's the one that put him in that position. Because even before the Per Mertesacker injury, even before the Gabriel injury, we needed a center half to come in, an experienced center half, or even a top quality center half. Obviously, Per is past it. If you're really gonna, he's the club captain again. He's out for the next 5 to 6 months. Again, we're going to have a club captain that's not going to be on the pitch, who's not going to be playing for the umpteenth time. I mean, Thomas Vermaelen, Mikel Arteta, and now fucking Per Mertesacker. I don't get these club captaincies and what Arsene Wenger is thinking about with his club captaincies when I would have given it to Santi. Probably would even give it to Koss, even though Koss isn't exactly a world beater when it comes to being a vocal leader. Fuck, I would have even given it to Alexis Sanchez for Christ's sake. I would have given it to somebody who's going to be on the pitch for most of the time. People want Czech. I hate when a goalkeeper gets the captaincy because he can't really communicate with his players unless they're a park the bus team. He can't really communicate with the players, and the captain is the only one who can actually really talk to the referee. Okay, so what is he gonna do? Run up the pitch 50 yards just so he can fucking talk to the referee? I mean, it's ridiculous. I don't like when a goalkeeper is the captain. Um, I mean, my head is spinning right now. I'm starting to get pissed off because uh, before the game, after the game, Arsene Wenger was talking about inflation of wages, inflation of again with transfer fees and everything like that. And a lot of people over the last few days have been talking about, well, you're talking about inflation, but you're making $8.5 million a year, and Arsenal fans are paying the most of anybody in Europe for ticket prices. But this guy is bombing on about, well, this player costs too much, that player costs too much. We can't compete. We can. Thierry Henry today on Sky Sports, I saw a little clip of it. It was about a 40-second clip. And this is exactly why you can't have Thierry Henry be a coach at Arsenal and be a pundit at Sky Sports because he ripped the living shit out of Arsenal today. In just a 40-second clip, he just said what everybody else has been saying, not only this summer, but for a very long time. And like I said, this is why he can't be a coach. This is why he can't have his cake and eat it too, because he ripped the living shit out of Arsene Wenger, Ivan Gazidis, and the entire Arsenal board by going on about, well, which one is it? Are the prices too inflated, or we can't compete with everybody else? But yet we have the most cash reserves, and we have a ton of money. We have the highest ticket prices. He really ripped into Arsene Wenger, and I think, he was kind of waiting for this, after him getting kind of pushed out the door by Arsene Wenger, which Arsene Wenger, like I said in my Thierry Henry saga thing, he had every right to. He was correct on that. That's one of the things that he was, one of the few things that Arsene Wenger was correct on this entire summer. Uh, but his bashing, oh my God, it was, even if the most AKBs, if that doesn't make sense to you, then I don't know what to tell you. There's still AKBs even after this fucking game saying, well, 20 years, 3 Premier League titles, 6 FA Cups, and this, that, and the other thing. No one will ever match what Arsene Wenger does at the club. This is what these people are fucking saying after the game. Instead of looking at this guy and saying, he is the problem. You don't want to pay 50 million euros for Lacazette, which has gone up, by the way. I mean, that's now up to, let's see, what is 60 million pounds? 60 million pounds is somewhere around between 69 and 71 million euros, I believe. So that price tag has gone up ever since that Lyon, the Chinese group came in and bought 20% of Lyon for 100 million euros. Um, because Lyon was they were in some financial trouble over these last couple of years, and a Chinese financial group came in and bought 20% of them. Now he's basically staying, and ever since that purchase went through, all of a sudden Lacazette went from 50 million euros to now 71, between, like I said, 69 and 71 million euros. 21 million euros in just a matter of like 2 weeks. When we could have had him for 50 million euros in early June. And he scores a fucking hat trick today on top of that. I mean, that was like insult to injury, when you're looking at, he's one of the real players that are available in this transfer market. A very, very good striker, but yet we're not going out and buying him. And Arsene Wenger I posted on my Twitter of him giving an interview saying, "Are you going to buy any strikers this transfer window?" And he says, "Nope, we have Theo Walcott and Alexis Sanchez." Yeah. I said this in one of my other videos. I mean, it's just a PR nightmare. Whoever the PR manager at Arsenal has to be either cutting their wrists currently over these last couple weeks, or they are one of the worst PR managers in the fucking world, because Arsene Wenger and Ivan Gazidis, everything that they've said this summer has been just negative, negative, negative. From, we can't compete with the bigger clubs. Look, Leicester City didn't spend a whole bunch of money. Inflated transfer fees. If you really look at the transfer fees over this summer, Pogba and Higuain, those are really the only two really big, outrageous transfers this season. That's it. There's no real outrageous transfer fees beyond that. And as far as the English Premier League, only one of those players came here, and that was Pogba. Higuain went to Juventus. So how does that really affect us? But you're seeing teams like Man City, Chelsea, even Liverpool, Man United, even Everton. You're seeing all these teams looking at what money they do have, and they're spending it. But Arsene Wenger and Arsenal Football Club, they don't want to. Dude makes $8.5 million to sit on the bench and do nothing. He makes $8.5 million to do nothing in the transfer market, and again, for the umpteenth year, it's going to kill us. And this week, we're going to hear all the other bullshit excuses that we've heard from Arsene Wenger over the years. Well, we have 37 more games of these. It's going to be a grind. Judge me in May. How many times are we going to hear that bullshit? How many times are people going to actually believe in that BS? It's just going to be, it's going to continue on and continue on, and nothing's going to change until he leaves. And people don't want him to leave for whatever fucking reason. They care more about this guy than they actually do about Arsenal Football Club. They care more about him than the actual players, than what we're putting on the pitch. Because look at our starting lineup. Would Rob Holding be starting for any of the major big clubs? No. Would Callum Chambers be starting at any one of the major big clubs? No. Would Aaron Ramsey be starting at the 10 at any major big club? Fuck no. He is not a number 10. He doesn't have the on-ball skills. He doesn't have that final pass. He doesn't have the vision. He doesn't have the football IQ. But for whatever reason, we start him at the 10. Why? Because he has a good Euros? Aaron Ramsey could probably flourish as a number 10 in a park the bus counter-attacking team, a mid-level team. But at Arsenal Football Club, where we're on an all-out attack, where we're heavy possession, he's not. You can't compare him to uh, definitely not an Ozil, definitely not an Iniesta, definitely not a David Silva. You can't compare him to any of those players. And some Arsenal fans, mostly AKBs, like to just like give him this praise that he doesn't deserve. He's a central midfielder because central midfielders are not supposed to be great on the ball. They're supposed to be just good passers, and they're supposed to have high IQs too as well. But Aaron Ramsey just doesn't have it. On top of that, he just can't stay healthy. You know, there were several times that Alexis Sanchez made a couple good runs. There was a couple times where Theo Walcott made a couple good runs. Alex Iwobi, same thing. And Ramsey just didn't have the IQ to pick them out. He just didn't have the awareness. But yet we're starting him at this position. And on top of that being not match fit and not fit at all, we're still starting him at this position when Santi was a lot further ahead, a lot further than an Aaron Ramsey as far as being match fit and even fit in general. Like I said, even if you start Santi and Santi can give you 60 minutes, then that's when you bring in Aaron Ramsey for the final 30 minutes. But yet, Arsene Wenger, again, another mishap in the starting 11. And again, the substitutions, the first substitutions were right. The third one was just, I don't get it. We need an extra goal, but you bring in a holding midfielder in Xhaka. And I don't know why he didn't start. You know, people were trying to make the excuse, well, he didn't have that many minutes in the preseason. But I mean, Ramsey and Sanchez didn't have any minutes other than the Man City game, but they're starting. What the fuck? You know, Robert Holding has zero experience in the Premier League, but he's starting. You know why? Why is this happening? You know, Twitter's all the rage right now. I mean, you go on there. I haven't, you know, like I said, I haven't seen any of the other stuff yet. I'm gonna probably look into it and maybe watch a couple clips on Arsenal Fan TV and see if I can find a couple different other podcasts that were doing live stuff and see what they're saying. But you know, Twitter is a mess right now. I mean, that's another reason why I just closed up my laptop, going upstairs, taking a nap. But I mean, it's 4 or 5 hours later, 6 7 hours later now, and I mean, Twitter's just a meltdown. It's a meltdown, but everybody's saying the truth. You know, there's even tweets right now of saying even Mustafi said himself that he wants to join Arsenal. You know, this is a deal that should have been in the works from the beginning of the summer, not now. Because the longer this goes, we're just going to keep on paying for it. And now next week, unfortunately, we're going to rush back Ozil. We're going to rush back Koss. We're going to rush back Giroud. Those guys are going to be as fit as you want them to be, unfortunately. You know, people were, talking about some other uh, French players, some other German players, some other Wales players. Um, who else made that? Was that or Portugal? I don't know. I don't know if they were talking about Portugal players that they're already back in training, they're already playing for their team, and blah blah blah, and this, that, and the other thing. But we're going to start rushing these players back. You know, even if we drew today, or or we should have. I mean, if the lineup was right, if the lineup was even remotely decent, with Santi as a number 10, maybe you stick Monreal as a center half. maybe we would have had a better output. But again, it's bringing players in. It's spending the money when you have it. It's really going out there and being aggressive in the transfer market and bringing in the right players in. Like I said, we could have had Mustafi by now. Maybe he would only be a week or two fit. But is he a better option than Robert Holding? Yeah. Lacazette, he would have been fully fit for this game to start. We would have had him in right at the beginning of the preseason. But we don't want to pay 50 million euros. And if he has another great season, if he stays fully healthy this entire season, he scores, let's say he scores 30 goals in all competitions this season. He's going to be, we're going to try to go back in for him. He's next season or next summer, he's going to be probably 70 million euros. Again, we're losing out on these players because we don't want to pay the extra 10 million or so money. I mean, it's a fucking joke. Because we have a fucking fossil as our manager who still thinks it's 1996. Who still thinks it's the year 2000. Well, I paid 13 million pounds for a guy like Thierry Henry. There's no way I'm going to pay 50 million euros for a Lacazette. Get the fuck out of here. He's a businessman. Oh, he's a great economist. Bullshit. And it's just another season. It's just another season where, you know, if we play like this today throughout the whole season, we're fucked. I mean, we are really screwed. Like I said, if no players come in, if Lamara signing is BS, if the Mustafi signing is BS, um, yeah, like I said, I can't see us getting top four this year. I just can't see it. Too many other teams are going to be more prepared than we are because a lot of other teams have real managers now to where we still have a fossil who's still just sits there. 8.5 million. What does he get for 8.5 million? What do we get for 8.5 million? The highest ticket prices in Europe. The only reason we announce a player is so people will go out and buy the kits. I feel sorry for all you people who actually went out there and actually bought kits this year because you got lied to. And this is the problem, with Arsenal Football Club is, all these AKBs are support the team, we need to be united and blah 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 this and all. We had a chance to be united last season for the time for change thing. We had that opportunity as fans to stand up and say we need a change at this football club. We need an actual view of the future. We need to look at it big picture. We need to start acting like a big club. But one Arsene Wenger, and of course, 20 minutes later, they boo the guy for a bad substitution. These are the idiots of Arsenal Football Club. I'm not going to blame them for the lack of trophies and stuff. These are AKBs blame fans for the lack of trophies, which is a fucking joke. I don't blame them for the lack of trophies. I blame the players for the lack of trophies. I blame the manager most of all for the lack of trophies. Because you can't get better as a football club. You can't maintain success when you buy one single first team player every fucking window. And it's going to continue and continue and continue. Now, Arsene Wenger's back is up against the wall. He has to buy something within these last 3 weeks. Will it be a quality like Mustafi? Will it be quality like Amares? It has to be. There is no room for error anymore. There is no more excuses. He was probably hoping and praying above anybody else that we win today so then he would have an excuse not to buy anybody. Because look at the rest of the games. We have even if we won this game and we lost to Leicester City, he would just say, well, King Power is a tough stadium to go into, and these are the former champions, and blah blah blah. And then we go into the Watford game and we beat Watford, so we have 6 points out of 9. And then the transfer window closes, and he said, well, we have 6 points out of 9. That's pretty good to start us. No, man. I mean, that's just we have a chance to go down 6 points going into next week. Always starting on the wrong foot. Always at this club to start the season.